Hello, and welcome to the Designing with Love podcast. I am your host, Jackie Pellegrin, where my goal is to bring you information, tips, and tricks as an instructional designer. Hello, instructional designers and educators. Welcome to episode 110 of the Designing with Love podcast. I'm thrilled to have Michaell Magrusche with me today, an Austrian Californian multimedia artist turned creativity awareness educator whose neurodiversity shaped an out-of-the-box, human-centric approach to learning. He's the author of 5 books, a podcaster, speaker, and fluent in German and English. Welcome to the show, Michaell.
Wie geht's?
I love that. I love it.
Hallo, wie geht's?
Yes.
Yes, I'm bilingual because I'm constantly together with Europe and America. I live in America, in Laguna Beach, but I constantly speak both languages. And I was born in Vienna, and I was a sick child, and everything could be wrong. So I went they held me back in school. 50 years ago, nobody cared about neurodiversity, and nobody cared. I said, "What?" I went to a doctor. The doctor, I was thinking I was in second grade, because they couldn't make anything out of me, right?
Oh.
And I went in second grade. I went to a doctor, and they said, "You're dyslexic." But at that time, today it says, "Okay, I understand why he cannot read. I understand why he cannot speak."
Right.
But then it was, okay, you're dyslexic, and you have to do the same still. We just know that you're dyslexic, so we might be more forgiving, but basically you have to speak the same, write the same, right, all this stuff. And I would have said, why don't you give me other, today we can say, give me the strengths. You don't have to do the perfect reading or speaking, but
right,
show the class too. You see, it's not just show me, the teacher. What the teacher's gone when you're a graduate, he might be dead already. So you need to give the class that every dyslexic or neurodiverse can actually function just in a different way. Women function different than men. Everybody functions different. We are 8 billion. This is my essence. 8 billion one-of-one humans, and that nature made us. Nature doesn't make mistakes. So we can 100 times go against nature. You see how far we came when industry goes against nature.
Right.
We are the most powerful thing. And in that one-on-one-ness, we learn my perspective, your perspective, and we don't judge it. We just say, oh, it's interesting. That's this view, and that's that view. And you put it all together for yourself, and they put it together for yourself. And there's something very interesting. When you don't judge, and you look at your perspective, and you talk about designing, right? You talk about the education of designing.
Right.
And we talked about before, and you see what I did. I said, oh, balance is very important, because I know design and I know art. And if I had to focus on design, I need to get the balance. And the balance is between money and what you create, and your voice is given in. So when you have two perspectives, right or wrong, you might see both and do a third one. So you might listen to two people and say, I don't agree with this at all. You can say that, but what is your thought? What is your perspective about the context of the two people talking about? And this is what the superpower of human and the limitlessness is. You talk to two scientists. When I talk about quantum physics with two scientists, and I have my human-centric way, and say, okay, what does that? How can it work in human in a common sense? So common sense is very important, and it's common thought. So something that you also experienced can be very. And I still don't know anything. I'm not an expert. I'm not an authority. I never want to be called that either. I am just me. I'm my contribution to you, my one-of-oneness to you. And we dance together and we both grow.
Right.
I am for win, 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 not win, lose, lose. I'm for win, 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 always.
I love that, Michael, because when I teach my students, it's not about me being, I mean, if I'm, giving them the grade and, in that sense, but I look at it as like you said, a dance, and it's a relationship back and forth. So I'm not just giving them information and helping them learn and grow, but they're also helping me learn and grow as an educator and in the profession that I do, because in the last 4 years I've been teaching, I've learned so much. It's been a blessing in that way. So I love how you brought that up. That's great. Yeah.
Philosophers say that the teacher always learns most, which I totally agree.
Yes,
because I teach a lot too. I did the first self-aware art movement in 2015. I did a whole movement of self-aware artists that know their voice. So I cannot compare myself to you, but I can look at your voice and you can look at my voice and we can say, does that come across,
Right, exactly. So it sounds like, you're, what you were faced with early in life with your neurodiversity and your dyslexia, that really helped you to really hone in on your creativity, it sounds like. And that's great. So how do you think with, that day-to-day design, like, for example, a teacher that's trying to plan a lesson, or someone like me that's in higher education trying to plan that curriculum, how do you think we can kind of take that creativity and bring it back to that education without overwhelming students? Because, we don't want to overwhelm anyone, right? So how do you think we can kind of bring that back to
design
classroom?
is always needed, right?
Right.
Unless you give it to AI. That's, and people will hand it over to the AI because it's cheaper, but it will not be a design that is human-centric. It will be abstract, because our collective knowledge, not the consciousness, the knowledge is in AI.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Our collective knowledge is in AI. So everything that has been done in the past AI will probably be better because they can access. But still, there's something to vibrate, So when the AI puts together, this was successful. When AI puts together that forest green and rosy, a very pink light skin color is really, really good. And we look at it and say, not for a car, there's so many contexts in designing and in creating anyway. So when you create with intent, for example, I loved in New York when you had all these soup artists do these eggs and the cows. Can you remember? Are you old enough?
Yes. Yeah.
So I love that because there was a context. You have to do it on this egg, on this cow. Everybody has to do the same,
Right.
and express themselves, their unique voice on that. And that's very helpful. And that's what AI cannot do. It just it cannot see okay, this is a cow. I wouldn't do certain things not on a cow.
Right.
I wouldn't use certain colors. Because everybody is individual. Yeah.
Right.
I would do a polka dot cow, but I wouldn't do a striped cow because the linear is so controversial to the natural, the organic. So when I say this is the essential problem with education, it's not a problem. We are unaware of it. And I study education forever because I failed I have 6 years of school. I literally don't know. Everything is self-taught because they couldn't teach me. They couldn't make me regurgitate. Because of my neurodiversity, I couldn't do it. So what happens is people in education, it's since 1845, the Prussian army, we know, all educators know that, right? Education comes from the creating of soldiers that need to be, it's not for knowledge or thing. Right. I think education needs to upgrade. Again, another system that is downgraded, and people hold on what they have. And that's why that's why Harvard has, I think, billions of dollars in reserves and everything, instead of teaching people and, helping any kid to just learn.
Right.
And what I found is, the sad thing is, and they have actually, now there's a lot of research, you can actually look that up, that when kids start today, school, first grade or preschool, whatever you have, by the end, because of technical evolution, faster evolution, they don't know what job. So they get taught a job. So I always say the sample, I said, you get taught to be an animal lover, animal care, and then we extinct all the dolphins because people eat dolphin meat, right?
Right.
I'm saying, so you become a ward for the dolphins. There are no dolphins when you're done. You become a cobbler for shoes. There's no shoes. We wear plastic things, AI, and we just sip it on. So the problem is, you need to learn to dance with humans. So what we talked about, right? You need to dance. You need to be open to other humans. And today we are on iPhones. We don't even have contact with that. And you need to know what to do when that job that you learned for is not available and is not needed. Whereas the old people do all the leftover things that are done, and so it's more important that you see, if there is no job, how do I find my job? Because I did 3,000 paintings. I did music. I worked with Robert Evans. I was an arts commission. I change constantly because of my awareness that changes. I'm not saying I have one knowledge and now this the rest of my life I'm going to do this.
Right. I love that. Yeah. You evolve and you grow, and that's a constant thing.
I started now because I haven't done any painting. I do some digital stuff just to never lose that connection that I, when I teach or when I advise people on the stuff, that I never lose that. So I did, and I'm curious what comes out. For 3 years, haven't let that out, even though I write a lot and do other expressions of myself. But I try, and I am generally not want to push paint. I love pushing paint always, and it's kind of not really missing it, because I've done 3,000. So, and that's not even a lot because Picasso did 35,000. So you do that, but you gotta be self-aware that when there is no work, how can I do it?
Hello, I have some exciting news to share with all of my listeners. There is a feature called Fan Mail. What this allows you to do is send me a text message anytime during the episode. There's a link located at the top of the description in each episode, and it says send Jackie a text message. So when you click on that link, you'll be able to send me a message letting me know what you thought about the episode and if you have any ideas for future episode content as well. I look forward to seeing your text messages. Thank you. I love that. Wow. That's great. And looking for those skills that are transferable. Yeah.
And I said, and I give you a little seed. I created which I actually with international, I work on something where you have only like 4 subjects as a human, because it's the human that needs to survive and exist. It's not the system. Apple doesn't need to exist. It's the human first. Otherwise, there's no money to buy an iPhone,
Right.
So it's only 4 subjects. One is team, because the social factor, I found out from all my research, the social factor it's not Harvard, Yale, or whatever. It's the social factor. You meet your people at Juilliard. You need to meet your people that have a very generous. I'm going to be an artist, right? So it's very general, but you find people that feel the same as you, and that's what's thing, not what you get taught. I can talk to you because you and we can, especially because we're both in education.
Right.
So,
right.
So we can, that's why, if I was whatever, if I was just a server in a restaurant, which I was, by the way, and we wouldn't have anything to say in that context. So I found out four things. So team sports, team art, tending an animal, a pet, having a pet. So I would never let anybody graduated from Yale, Harvard, or Cornell, anybody or Oxford. I would never, if they cannot take care of a pet, because the knowledge that you learn, if you're going to transfer that in a living being, why are you learning this?
Right. Oh, that's so true.
It's what's connect us is a human. We talked about the common denominator is being a human.
Right.
And in a bigger sense, being a living being. That's why people have so many. So we segregate humans, so humans buy animals. It's just to,
Yeah, to have that connection.
To have the connection, because it's longevity is the biggest effect of longevity is the biggest of longevity is a connection with humans.
Right, exactly.
Or a pet or whatever. But usually it's human. There's no pill that they can give you that's why I segregate between human centricity and system relevant, because in being clear about the context, not that I'm saying system relevant is nothing. No, I'm glad you're working for the university.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not saying this, but the university cannot stay still. It needs to evolve. It needs to become a life system that is constantly of our consciousness evolvement is integrated in systems, so that the future kids can grow.
Right, exactly. I think that's why innovation and creativity are so important. And I say this to my team members often, that we can't just continually do the same things the same way, because it doesn't work.
It's death.
Yeah.
What we experience worldwide right now.
Right.
Stagnation is death.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to continually be innovative and come together as a team and not silo ourselves.
Yeah. And allow the systems to update. And say, systems are secondary to humans, and we only build systems to help us lift our human potential. So that you can not only just pick berries in the farm, there is in the tribe a lady that's really good with kids, and you can give her your kid, and you can pick her some extra berries and bring it better. So it makes us more effective. But if something changes, it needs to be updated. If the thing finds, if I take those blankets, then it's better for the kid. So also having your home, so the system teaches you.
Right.
See?
Yeah.
And so there is win-win-win in all this. And the last subject was in that. So team sports, team art, then a pet, and then a awareness talk. So not who is better, who tends better to his pet, but what was your problem with the pet? Interaction, social interaction in problem solving. In say, I can't, I know you do so good with your kitty. Why is my kitty always sad? So you and I talk about this.
Yeah.
To integrate, because segregation, we on purpose segregate to come on this earth, and we got to integrate again. And, and that makes us all better and not struggle and not scarcity.
Right. Exactly. Wow. I love that. I love how your story, Michael, highlights strengths with differences. I think that's so good, especially in education. Yeah. So from your perspective, how does neurodiversity enhance creativity, and what's possibly one way educators can design for that, maybe next week in their lessons or in their classroom.
I will send you the white papers I wrote about it, and
I'd love that.
I think the neurodiversity. I'm telling you from me, not from anybody else, because I'm one of 8 billion.
Right.
I was told, and I think everybody was told, but I was told that my way of thinking and being, because it wasn't thinking first, it was being first, and then my thought patterns came out, was wrong. I couldn't read, I couldn't do math, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So I was told the way you be is wrong. So I was very afraid, and I got a lot of fear infiltrated to be part of the tribe, because, we are herd animals.
Right.
So being in the class, I've never had a thing. I was speaker of the class and was one of the worst students, because I was good with humans. And we had no problem. I talked to the smartest kids, and they were really nice. They tried to help me. They weren't shaming me or anything. They wanted to because everybody said, "Oh, they bullied me. They bullied me." No, nobody. Girls were laughing because girls are smarter than men at that age, and they were laughing, and they thought I was funny, and I am funny. So I was my ego was a little bit at that time. And then over 60 years, I found out, no, this is for me. The thinking is not for the system good, but it is for me good, because I don't know anything, but I'm aware the moment I talk to you. So I changed my way of knowledge to awareness. And when I'm aware, I don't have to read 100,000 books. I can speak all the time. I said what I say, and I trust and I don't know that I'm wrong, because I don't have no idea. I don't do any worries about if I'm right or wrong when I talk to you, or I have talked on 600 podcasts. I don't care if I'm wrong. If you say no, I have to study here, and say, okay, you're right. Who cares? It's like it's the awareness, but I know I can contribute as a human to your episode.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, I'm going to give you all the data and statistics about this and this and this, but they can't read a book. They don't need to listen to a podcast. This is actually also, I'm working on podcasts also to make podcasts more human-centric, because our power is the human centricity. Remember, in the old days, there was KMBC, WKMBC, there were all these big TV companies, and there were 20 people. If I come to your show, there's only 5 questions, and the 5 questions I have to give a 2-minute answer. That's not natural.
Right.
And that's why podcasts took over. They just took over, because people want to hear people speak, and not something that is orchestrated like a theater.
Right. Exactly. They don't want that rehearsed type of, they don't want it to be, rehearsed or practiced or anything like that. They want authenticity. And and that's, I think, what podcasts bring, is that authenticity.
But they want to be like networks.
Right.
They all want to do money. It's the money, the thing. And if you don't you contribute so much to humanity, you cannot even invent the businesses that would do this, because this is in time now. They can listen in 10 years to this. My podcast that I do with you, for example, timeless. There's no time constriction. It's about how humans are.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting too, is like the podcast, I started mine because I wanted to help my students and give them that extra information that they wouldn't get in class from experts and from other creatives. Right. Yeah. And so that's how I started it. And it's not by any means, it's not getting as many downloads as other podcasts out there, but that's okay, because I don't want to compare myself to others. And the reason I started it was for others and to serve others. So as long as I keep that at the forefront and the goal is still there, and I don't look at, well, I want to make money and I want to do all this stuff.
No,
and
you can
have the
give $500,000 for an education, or you can do your own podcast.
Right.
I would see it as that, because your awareness, it gets so exponentially up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I've learned so much from doing this, and it's amazing.
And you didn't go, so you have something to really resolve, because you are in university, and that's another thing. I learned so much from talking to humans, to really activate the interaction in class.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think? Not, I say this has to be this way. I think that's all. That's from the colonels in the Prussian army, 1845. We need a bombardier, we need a horseman, we need a soldier, we need a digger. No.
Right.
Just say, how would you do it?
How would you do? Yeah, right. Because it's interesting, because that's how instructional design as a field, which I'm in, that's how it started, was in the military. They saw that they needed to train the military, right? Like you said earlier, train them to go out on the battlefield during World War II.
Yeah, and win and compete, not collaborate. See, we are collaborative, creative species of nature.
Right.
We are part of nature, and we are not a competitive executor, because basically all humans become bystanders when they go only system relevant. I need to have in New York a corner office, be a CEO of the company. That's what I think. Sadly, I fell in love with my secretary. I couldn't control that, the human stuff.
Right.
I can use my adaptation to do everything they tell me. And then I screw my identity, because I fall in love with the wrong person, quote unquote wrong. It's always the right person, but
it's always the right person. Yeah. But society will often tell you, that is wrong, but it's, it's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. And that can be true with education too,
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. Did you want to expand a little bit on how you often contrast the people over systems? Because I love that. So how do you think focusing on human potential over systems changes the way learners engage and persist and reflect?
I think it's a contextual thing. It's it's like you can, from perspective, I'm just saying the extremist form. You can say wars are horrible, right?
Right.
Or you can say, where's the energy of war coming from? Because we suppressed creativity. We made everything money. And then you will understand and look at war in a different way. I've written a lot about war, because I was very anti-war, because it's contrary to humans. It's a business.
Right.
War is a business. It's not it's not something that's natural in humans. When people say, they always said war. Yeah, because the king or the queen said, these are the other humans are bad. We need things so I can get them the land.
Right.
It's always from top down. It's never
competition.
From bottom up.
Yeah, it's a competition.
Not collaboration. Everybody could win. We have all resources. We wouldn't exhaust Earth and everything. I have not heard one person in nature talk about this. In climate change, we need to play with nature, not just put a lot of money into safe nature, because we just violated nature by taking advantage and have no interaction with it, no understanding. And now the understanding gets more and more through, science and everything, get the understanding more. And say, there's no solution. This, when one volcano can give you so much pollution, then perhaps we got to look at that. Not just saying stop the car drivers to drive their cars, and then the top people drive with airplanes. It's just, you got to look at this. Also, you cannot be in both. See, I've never heard anybody say that either. War is the biggest polluter, right?
Right.
War is the biggest polluter. It kills humans. It destroys infrastructure. There's no catalytic converter on a tank, right?
Right.
Even if you take the drones, that's not, because they bomb stuff, they kill stuff.
Right.
So how can you be in both? How can you say, I take tax money for a war and I take tax money for from bottom up for climate change.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision.
Right.
Any nation has to say either this or that.
Absolutely. Because my mom and I have talked about this too. And, they are in like all the Navy ships are in the ocean and they're bombing each other. And she's like, okay, all that stuff goes in the ocean. I'm like, exactly. Right. Yeah. Just ends up at the bottom of the ocean.
The biggest polluter. Worldwide biggest, number one polluter war.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're warring on the land, in the sea and in the air. And I'm like, wow, yeah you're right. So it's when we're at peace with each other and we're collaborating in harmony with each other that we thrive the most, right?
Yeah. Limitless.
Right. Yeah. But when we close ourselves off to each other and silo each other, and that can happen in education too, when a teacher puts students in these categories, right? And say, you're in this category, you're in that. That doesn't help. It doesn't.
Also, AI cannot do what you and I talk.
Right.
AI cannot do that.
Right.
So when you talk to your student like that, when you talk with your students like that, in that context, human-centric versus system-relevant, it also, it's a human study. Education is a human study. It's not, it's like physical. Whatever is human, you gotta do, your number one need to be human-centric, not system-relevant. You can't, it's a paradox. You cannot do this paradox.
Right. Yeah. This just doesn't work that way. Yeah. You can't have both. I agree.
Both, yeah.
Yeah. You have to
choose.
Math
is math, I understand. Math is math. You have to do math.
Right.
But not design, art, or any creation.
Right. Yeah. We can't box ourselves in. It doesn't serve those that we're trying to help, and it doesn't serve ourselves either.
That's why I have a psychologist in England, and we have a podcast. It's called Humanity Unboxed. Because of that, just to make people aware. We don't tell you what to do. Like you and I don't tell anybody what to do. I just tell you my opinion, and this is perfect. So this is the way to learn awareness. To be aware of awareness, which then leads to wisdom. Right.
Exactly. Because the more we learn and hear from others. Yeah, it deepens our perspective and
experience, not just
and our
theory.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Oh my goodness. I love that, Michael. That's great. So I wanted to give all of the listeners out there something that they can try today. So in 60 seconds, what's your creative sprint? Maybe one exercise or activity that they can do.
I have like 279 episodes of The Smart of Art. The power of art and creativity is all about the process, and it's 30 seconds long. So it's not hard, 30 seconds, and the rest of the day let it percolate. Okay. It's a question and a statement from me, not from Picasso said, Warhol said, Bauhaus said, whatever. It's just it's one statement of creation, which you are creator. I mean, this is the most impactful that I can give you because you are a collaborative creator animal, species. Even though you say I'm not an artist, you couldn't be a businessman if you're not creative.
Right.
So when anybody ever tells me, "Oh, but I'm not an artist. I'm more a stockbroker," this is you need to be creative to be that. So you cannot exist not being creative.
Right.
From the the beggars on the street, I have to be creative, and the billionaire has to be creative not to lose the money. So don't focus on money. By the way, money is a symptom, not a cause. And be as much as you can be. I think that's life's lesson, is to be as much as you can be. And if you cannot afford to be an artist, get a little job to support you and do as much art as you can, because art, you grow so much. You grow because if I tell kids always, when they're angry, I say, paint it. Show me the anger. Paint it or tape it.
Right.
Or speak in your iPhone or whatever. And then they look at it like a week later, even a year. Because this was for me. That's what I experienced. I looked at paintings that I saw were crap. And I started in my art classes. I started to teach the people to never throw away. Some painters say, "Oh, I screwed up. I shouldn't have done that
They
extra
tear it up.
step.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. On the I said, never. Always put it away for at least a month and then look at it, because then you don't look as you. Your ego is out.
Your perspective is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a different person anyway, and you're not looking at it, oh, I did this.
Right.
And that's horrible.
Yeah, I love that. That's why, I love being able to, I have, like all my different art supplies in my closet. But I try to get those out every so often and just create something, whether it's, watercolor or it doesn't matter what it is.
But what comes, not say, I have to create a tree.
Right.
Unless you feel, oh, I have this tree in my mind. It's a black tree with red things and gold stuff and whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Do whatever you feel. And it has to be you.
Right.
If there's if there's no enjoyment in what you want to create, you're creating wrong. Then you actually hurt your superpower muscle of the first your first superpower, that's creativity, and you hurt that.
Right.
When you just say, I need to do a landscape. I'm in a plein air area. I need to plein air. No. Yeah. And then the plein air that wins is usually the purple trees.
Right. That's so true.
It's not the photo.
Right. It's kind of like, I have, so my closet is like half game, like I have games too. And as a kid, I love to play games, and I still do as an adult, but it's cool because I love the types of games, Michael, that are cooperative type of games. Cause I'm the same way. I don't like the competition so much. If there is competition in it, I like to laugh. I like to have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Games are just that. It's not like who's won or lost. It's more about what did I learn through that process. So I love the cooperative games where you get to team up with people and you really get, like you talked about sports, and having that.
That's why I say
cooperation.
Team sports, because you learn so much in a team sport. And even if somebody says, an artist said, I'm not into competition. Now you could be the towel holder, you could be the water girl, you could be your referee, you could be, and the jock, the quarterback says, I don't want to do a theater. And he said, no, we need a 65-year-old woman that knits in the corner there, and you sit there.
Yeah.
So he gets really skin deep involved. That's why I say that the tools are so, and perhaps he has an idea that all the artists don't have, because, we are one-on-one humans. And then you have your pet, and then you have the awareness where you talk about this. I said, hey, I hated everything. And I really found it very fun to be an old woman,
Right. Oh my goodness. Wow.
You see how that triggers the imagination too?
Right.
How can I'm not that. How can I do a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old child? How can I do this? I'm 66. How can I do that?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Because I've always had that imagination, when I would read books as a child, I would just put myself in that world, and that's creativity in action, I think,
Yeah.
I actually will even go back, Michael, and I'll read, I still have, books from when I was a child, and I'll go back and I'll read those, or I don't have the original, but I went and got the book. So for example, when I this was years ago. It was back in 2007. I broke my left, was it like my left foot, and I had to be off of it for 12 weeks so it could heal, because I didn't want to have surgery. And the doctor kept telling me, you have to stay off of it. So I was in a boot cast, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do for 12 weeks while I'm at home? Besides watching TV, I didn't want to just do that. Yeah. So I picked up the Chronicles of Narnia, the whole entire set of books, and I read those as a child. And so I read them again. And then every so often I'll go back and I'll read some of those. So it's really neat to kind of go back and
you read
those
different.
things.
You read them different.
Exactly.
You read them differently. And so the stuff, what I didn't say all education, but I think before we even get the kids into education, if they had those four subjects in preschool or in the first 2 grades, they would make much more conscientious decision on what they want to be and what direction they want to go.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, that's great, Michael. I love it. So before we close, I wanted to bring it back to, and what we've been talking about the whole time, creativity as a daily practice. What's 2 or 3 simple habits you would recommend to educators and course creators to keep that creativity alive under real world constraints and deadlines?
That's why I made the podcast. That's why I made the podcast, The Smart of Art, Power and Art and Power of Creativity, because I didn't want to tell the same thing. You know, what I tell you, you know, I don't have to tell the same thing, so people can just listen to it. Also, it is I always believe in collaboration. Now, there's a question, there's a statement and a question, and so if you're an educator, you listen to art always, or art tends to do this or whatever. You know, it's so long I did them, but they're timeless. And you read that, and they said, "How did you also see that?" And they can use the question in their class, you know, and they can make a whole subject, the whole thing of one statement of mine, because it's general. It's not like, oh, there is you got to paint like Warhol. I don't mention anybody in there. So it's literally just awareness about the art creation process. And then for educators, I think they will all of a sudden, and I guarantee all educators, by the way, I guarantee this right now here. So you can think, when they go through the questions, they will at least quintuple their enjoyment of art. They will find why they chose art, consciously or unconsciously, to teach art or design or whatever, and they will be empowered, seated, and will create unbelievable write books and whatever, because all of a sudden their context fits together. Like what you experience with me right now, this is, this is the next best thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I became, it's kind of interesting how, I can bring this to life because how I evolved, as a creative professional. I went into instructional design, then I started, maybe, let's see, I've been doing this for 15 years now. So I've been teaching for 4. So 11 years into that, I decided, I had the opportunity to teach, and I've been doing that. Then I started the podcast, and now I'm almost done writing my first book that was inspired by the podcast. So it's amazing how that creative spark
it's just one art. It's not the end.
Exactly.
See, the thing is, the artists think that often, because I thought it, and I talked to a lot, and they say, oh, if I had, this is what I thought, if I had the cover of this magazine, which I had, I don't need to worry about making money. If I have my exhibition on the international airport, I will have it. If I work with Robert Evans, on the class of Robert Evans, I will have no problem. We are so conditioned to the wrong way to succeed versus keep doing what you love. Keep doing what you love.
Right.
That's better than, if I have that, I don't need to worry about it.
Yes.
I know that super thing that they were not extended, or they were not, they want a tenure teacher. And they were told that they're there for 20 years. And they were told, we don't do this anymore. Everybody's saving money. And a whole group of 5 or so, they were standing in, like in the brick wall. And I was in with this lady, and the lady wanted to be a musician. I mean, it's interesting. She's teaching art, and then or she wasn't teaching art. She was teaching something. She didn't get tenure. But now she was doing economics and something. Now she wants to be a musician.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Oh my goodness.
If you do, like, if you want to be a designer, I would understand it because you taught it all the time, right?
Right.
But you would say all of a sudden, no, I want to play the saxophone as my job. So something completely different.
Completely different.
You want to be a veterinarian.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. I wonder too, Michael, if, sometimes we, when we think back to what we did as a child, because I had someone on my podcast, similar background as you, artist, creative professional, and he
Yeah.
talked about how important things like journaling are, but also thinking back to what we did as a child. And it's something I think I need to tap into that a little bit more and actually go back to those things, because when I was in school, I played the flute. So and that's a creative, area, like you said, playing an instrument.
But do you like it?
It's very creative.
The key is that you like it.
I
that
did.
It really fulfills you.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Keep it up. Pick it up.
And so what I did though, as a kid, I made, and it's not really a mistake, but it was just a decision I made at the time. I wanted to go out and play more than I wanted to practice the flute. So my mom's like, well, okay, you have to make a decision. Do you want to keep practicing and getting better at it? And I gave it up. But now I'd like to go back and actually pick it up again. And I remember to this day when I was in 5th grade and I was in music class, and how my music teacher taught me how to play the flute. She took one piece at a time, because the flute is 3 pieces. And instead of giving me the flute and saying, here, I'm just going to teach you the notes, she's like, let's take it piece at a time. And I remember that to this day. And I don't remember all the keys. I'd have to relearn the keys, but I remember the technique of the flute and how to play it. So yeah, who knows? Maybe
but there's something interesting in that too. The feeling is an organic feeling that you want to play, not practice.
Right.
And there is a lot. And today, today we have the most artists in the world ever. Everybody is an artist today.
Right.
Literally, in the old days, it was like a few artists. You had to stay in line to get to them. Now you can go everywhere and you can have contact with everywhere. And I think you will have it much easier. Find people that just start. Even go with young people and say, "Hey, age is a number. It's not what you are. You just go with kids and they start and they say, I could play. They want, like, say, a Jethro Tull band. I'm divulging my age, but Jethro Tull band, and he played the flute, right?
Right.
And you said, Ian Anderson. You say, I can be your Ian Anderson, for your thing, and I can play the flute. That would fit good in your group. So if you like a group, offer you do, and all you have to do is start slow and do accents, and then you start more and more interpretation and everything.
Right.
There should never be a constriction on creation. Never.
Right.
Never.
I agree. Yeah. And who knows, maybe those things that I learned as a kid will start to resurface again, and then I can pick up those notes again, exactly. that I learned, and it's something that's there.
Fulfill you.
Yeah.
So, I was all in motorcycles and fixing, and that's how my creativity started. When I was young, when I was 10 years old, and now I wouldn't want to do that. Doing oil changes or whatever. I didn't want to do that now, but it fulfilled me then very much.
Right.
So you have to see. And I learned guitar. This is another thing with instruments. I learned guitar for 2 years, classical guitar. Because in Europe, you couldn't buy an electric. I want to be Hendrix. And I was told in Europe, with all structural system relevant, you have to think, and then you can buy a thing and you can play the electric guitar. And I know about 4 chords on the guitar. My friend was 2 years after I made the decision in my brain, I'm not a musician. And 2 years later, a friend of mine says, our percussionist, that was like one of those in Europe where you go in a basement and you play in a basement. And it was like they had a little bar or whatever. And they said, just, can you play? You're good in rhythm. They knew I was good in rhythm. They said, just go there. And I popped. I was nervous, did 2 bangs, and I was full blast. I did a CD. I was invited everywhere to play. And it was just the wrong instrument because the neurodiversity left and right, chords and strumming.
Right.
But this is easier.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. You found where you
need to find you. You need to find you, Jackie.
Yeah.
Only you. Your thing is, whatever you do, it has to be you. You write a letter, it has to be you. You do this, you prepare a meal, it has to be you.
Right, exactly. Can't be somebody else's work or somebody.
I'm gonna look at this recipe and copy it. No, I've never used the recipe ever in my life because I couldn't read it. I couldn't understand it.
Mm-hmm. My grandmother was like that too. It's funny. She had a recipe book, but she wouldn't use it. She would just, and there's this French, it's a French dressing recipe that my grandmother would make every Thanksgiving, and it was passed down 5 generations of women, but they wouldn't pass down the recipe. They would just pass down the technique of how to make it. But it was never the same from generation to generation. It always had a little bit
That's always
something
a
different.
saying.
Yeah.
This is always a saying. You know, when I get my grandmother's recipe, they say, and then they said, I made it, but did it taste like nobody says, oh, it did taste exactly like that. We had a lady here that made a salsa, a beautiful Hispanic lady. And she was like literally like a queen. And she made a salsa that people were addicted, everybody. When we tried the salsa, it's totally different. It's good. It's very good, but it's not
the same. Yeah.
Not the same.
Because it has their imprint on it, right? It
has, that's why I say we are 101, 8 billion 101 humans.
Right. That's why if we try to replicate it, we won't be able to.
That's why copy is so bad. The copy is really, unless you're doing something that everybody needs, like a rake or something, copying stuff is do your own.
Yeah.
Also get engaged to do your own. I would always engage kids, try to do your own way.
Right.
Don't say, what is the right way, and then copy.
Right.
I mean, even if I go to use YouTube, I go to YouTube and look at 5 things how to change your smart plugs, and then I use the one that makes most sense to me.
Right. Exactly. There's no right or wrong. It's just how people approach it. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your insights today. This was a wonderful conversation. I know
it's usable. It's usable.
Exactly. And it's timeless. And I love the timeless evergreen content.
And there's no steps. We don't tell them steps.
Exactly. So I want to encourage everyone listening. Creativity isn't extra. It's how we unlock potential. That's something that I pulled, and I thought of it the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, I love this," because it's not an extra. It's something that unlocks our potential and keeps us.
It's our essence, a part of our essence, you know.
Right, exactly.
Creativity, dialogue, a lot of dialogue, and adaptation.
Right.
Top 3 superpowers.
I love it. Wow. I know my listeners will get so much out of this, and they'll want to listen to it again and again because they'll get those golden nuggets all throughout. So I love it. Well, I look forward to having you back on the show, and we can dig into other things. I love it.
We can dig forever.
I love it. Well, I definitely have to give a shout out to PodMatch because it's a great system, and I love what Alex is doing.
And Alex and Alicia are the greatest.
They are.
I work with them, too.
I love it. They're wonderful. And who knows, maybe someday I can have Alex on my show. You never know. So
Alex is like a comics figure. He shows up where you don't expect him.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I'm thinking of maybe going, I'd like to go to one of the events, the podcasting events in the future, and meet him in person, and just Alex, can I give you a hug, right? And I'm sure he'll accept that. But
and he's human-centric too, by the way.
Yes.
He's human-centric.
Human-centric.
It's the only system, and he is trying to do a life system with podcasting.
Right, exactly.
So not just leave it that now it works, let it just be. No.
Right. He's continually
innovation.
Innovation.
And what do the humans of podcaster need? He always thinks about the podcaster and the guest. He says, what do they need? He doesn't say, how can I make the most money?
Right.
It will guarantee, if you make the most money, will guarantee be reverse thing. You will be, because every system ends up self-destroying.
Right.
Because if it's outdated and not updated, it's stagnation. Stagnation is death.
Right. And the fact that he gives back to those podcasters to keep them going. I mean, that model itself, I mean, I remember, I saw in the last live session that they did last month, he talked about that, how, people kept telling him, it's not going to be successful. That model won't work. And he's like, but I'm doing something different, and I'm just going to do it. See, and now it's successful. So, can't listen to all those critics, right? You just have to, go with what your instincts are telling you.
You have to be you. Yeah. Anything that happens in life, you always end up, whatever struggle you go through, you always have to refer to you. Right. You have to pull from you. You cannot pull from other.
Right.
Nobody outside helps you. Right. You have to help yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. Why? You're great. This is wonderful. Thank you so much again, Michael. I appreciate
Welcome.
it. And
It was a pleasure for me too. Jackie,
yes.
I'm not suffering here and say, oh, it was so hard, I love it.
I love it too. Yes. These are the best kind of conversations, the organic ones that just flow. Yep. Mm-hmm. Love it. Thank you for taking some time to listen to this podcast episode today. Your support means the world to me. If you'd like to help keep the podcast going, you can share it with a friend or colleague, leave a heartfelt review, or offer a monetary contribution. Every act of support, big or small, makes a difference, and I'm truly thankful for you.